بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Today inshallah part 2 of this series, Mother of the Believers, Hafsah bint Umar bin Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala anha, shall be discussed. In part 1, many details and much information about the life, the marriage, and the personality of Hafsah radiyallahu ta'ala anha were discussed. And I mentioned last week that a very important incident happened in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which related directly to Hafsah radiyallahu ta'ala anha. And the details of that incident, the specifics of that incident, shall be discussed today inshallah. By understanding this incident, many points, many reflections, many lessons come to light, and by paying close attention, we learn many beneficial things by which we can rectify our lives. It was a practice of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that after the Asr Salah, he would go and pay a visit to his wives. So he would spend an equal proportionate time with each of his wife just to see how they were doing. This was his daily practice, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So let's say, for example, he would spend 15-20 minutes by each wife. Their turns were also allocated. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would spend the night with one wife, and then the next night, whose ever turn it was, he would spend the night with that particular wife. But after the Asr Salah, every day, he would give equal time and pay a visit to his wife just to see if there's any necessities, if there's any household affairs that need to be taken care of. So point number 1, we learn that the husband should be aware of his household matters. There's a very famous saying, and that is, the husband looks after the affairs outside the home, and the wife looks after the affairs inside the home. So the details of the affairs, the specifics of the affairs are to be looked after the wife, are to be looked after the mother. However, a general supervision is normally conducted by the husband. If anything is needed financially, physically, morally, the husband usually has a general outlook of what's going on in his household, and thereafter he takes care of those needs. So in the same manner, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would pay a general visit, and he would inquire about his wives and their situation and circumstances on a daily basis. Once the Prophet ﷺ, he was visiting one of his wives, Zainab bint Jahash radiyallahu ta'ala anha. And he spent much longer time than he would normally spend with his other wives. This caused Hafsah radiyallahu ta'ala anha and Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha to envy Zainab bint Jahash radiyallahu ta'ala anha. Now keep in mind, when multiple wives share one husband, they tend to compete with one another. They tend to feel this sensation or feeling of envying. And I'm using the word envy and not the word jealousy, because there is a difference between being jealous and being envious. In the light of the Quran and Hadith, a person who's jealous, he desires that a blessing, a favor, talent, skill is taken away from someone. Whether he's given that talent, skill, blessing, favor is irrelevant. But that blessing, favor, skill, talent should be taken away from a person. Whereas to envy someone means that he does not desire the blessing, favor, the skill, the talent to be taken away from someone. Rather, he wishes that he could also possess it. For example, when someone sees another parent's children or other family's children obedient, when he sees that they are hafiz, ulama, one also desires in his heart that my children should also become a huffaz. They should also become ulama. They should also become obedient. Now, no one in the right mind would desire that their obedience, the quality of ilm, the quality of hifz, should be stripped from their children and be given to me. Rather, they should retain it, and at the same time, I want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give me that quality, that blessing, that favor as well. This is called envying. So the Ummahat al-Mu'mineen did not have this quality of jealousy in their hearts. Rather, they used to envy one another. They used to compete with one another. They wanted to please Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And by pleasing Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in turn they pleased Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam spent much longer time by Zainab bint Jahsh radiyallahu ta'ala anha. So this caused Hafsah radiyallahu ta'ala anha and Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha to be envious of Zainab bint Jahsh. So they secretly agreed that when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam returns to one of us, whoever he meets first, myself or yourself, we should say that a foul odor, a foul smell, known as maghafir. So maghafir is a type of herb, it's a type of gum, it's a type of sap that gives a foul odor. So we should say that the smell of maghafir is coming from your mouth. So when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam returned, according to the authentic narration, there are many narrations in respect to who was visited first. So according to the narration mentioned in Ma'arif al-Quran by Mufti Shafi rahimahullah ta'ala, he first visited Hafsah radiyallahu ta'ala anha. And Hafsah radiyallahu ta'ala anha made this remark to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But there's a foul smell, a foul odor coming from your mouth, and it smells like maghafir. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a natural dislike for unpleasant smells. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that I just came from Zainab bint Jahsh and she prepared honey for me and I just drank honey. So this is not the smell of maghafir, this is the smell of honey. But nonetheless, because it inconvenienced you and it developed a dissatisfaction to you, I will take an oath. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will take an oath that he shall never have honey again. This was an oath that he took. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala thereafter instructed Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam to break this oath. And he mentions this story or parts of the story in Surah At-Tahrim. Ya ayyuhan nabiyyu lama tuharrimu ma ahallallahu lak. That, O Nabi, O Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, why do you make unlawful something which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made lawful for you? قَدْ فَرَضَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ تَحِلَّةَ أَيْمَانِكُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained, Allah has made it necessary for you to break your oath. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam was instructed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to break his oath and to pay the kafara, the expiation, which he did, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Now Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam confided in Hafsah radiyallahu ta'ala anha with a secret. He said, do not disclose this secret to Zainab bint Jahash, that I have took an oath that I will never have honey again, because this will displease her. Very lovingly and out of a lot of love and compassion, she gave me honey. So it shouldn't be that she feels that I was the reason why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam took this oath and I was a means of inconvenience. This is a secret which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned to his beautiful wife Hafsah radiyallahu ta'ala anha. وَإِذْ أَسَرَّ النَّبِيُّ إِلَى بَعْضِ أَزْوَاجِهِ حَدِيثًا. However, it happened to be that Hafsah radiyallahu ta'ala anha disclosed this secret, and she did not conceal this secret, and she mentioned it to Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha, and then this secret spread. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam of the situation. And before I go further, let us understand the importance of wives concealing their husbands' secrets. Let us understand the importance of wives concealing private matters, whether it be financial matters, whether it be family matters, whether it be social matters. Allah's Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned in another hadith, "Man satara Allahu satarahu man satara Musliman satarahu Allah yawm al-qiyamah." Whoever conceals a fault, whoever conceals someone's mistake, whoever conceals secret matters of an individual, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will conceal his faults on the day of Qiyamah. In another hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has mentioned, إِذَا حَدَّثَ الرَّجُلُ الْحَدِيثَ ثُمَّ الْتَفَتَ فَهِيَ أَمَانَةٌ. When a person says something, when he speaks about some private issues, private matters, and he looks to his right, he looks to his left, this is amana. This is a trust. This means when a person usually confides in someone, when a person usually discloses a secret, when he mentions a secret, he looks to his right, he looks to his left to see if others are listening. If no one is listening, only then will he mention that secret or whisper that secret to another person or individual. So the hadith is saying that فَهِيَ أَمَانَةٌ. This is amana. This is trust. A person should not betray this trust. This is in respect to a normal individual. just imagine the importance and the graveness of those secrets which occur between husband and wife. So whether they are general matters or specific and intimate matters. In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned, إِنَّ مِنْ أَشَرِّ النَّاسِ مَنْزِلَةً يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ الرَّجُلَ يفضي إلى امرأته وتفضي إليه ثم يستر سرها. That among the most wretched people on the day of Qiyamah in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that husband and wife, is that husband who has an intimate relationship with his wife. And thereafter, instead of concealing intimate matters, he discloses those intimate matters to his friends, to his associates. And this is very common among young people. They will disclose their intimate matters, their intimate affairs, their private affairs to prove to others, to show to others that I also have some kind of standing in society. I'm also a powerful man. I'm also an influential man. So to disclose these type of details, to disclose this type of information is impermissible and haram. So again, whether it be general information or specific information, a person should conceal this type of information. Yes, it's only allowed to disclose such information when the Sharia allows a person to do so. And only for that necessity and only for that specific occasion. It's like a doctor. A patient goes and visits a doctor. He does not disclose his satr. He does not disclose that portion of his body which needs to be concealed. He will only disclose it if treatment is needed on that area. So in the same manner, if a Shari'i solution, if Shari'i guidance is needed, only then may a person disclose relevant information to an expert sheikh, an expert alim, an expert mufti, an expert imam, out of necessity. But in general cases, a person should not disclose anyone's mistakes, private matters, private issues, because this causes disruptions. This causes the hearts to break. This causes distrust. Nonetheless, Hafsah radiallahu ta'ala anha disclosed the secret of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And when the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was informed, he confronted Hafsah radiallahu ta'ala anha with the issue. Now let us look at the nobility of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Although he confronted Hafsah radiallahu ta'ala anha with the issue, he only mentioned a part of that issue. He didn't mention the whole issue because he did not want to put Hafsah to shame. He did not want Hafsah radiallahu ta'ala anha to feel embarrassed. أظهره الله عليه وأعرض عن بعض. عرف بعضه وعرض عن بعضه. I cannot recall the exact words in the Quran, but they are of this nature, that the Prophet ﷺ, he only disclosed, he only mentioned some parts of the matter, and he ignored other parts of the matter. This is also a very important and fundamental point to remember in marriage, that when a person has an issue to discuss with his wife, and likewise vice versa, There's absolutely no need to mention the entire incident and all of the petty and lowly points. Neither should men do that, and nor should women do that. There's absolutely no need to mention all these low and petty points, these insignificant points. Rather, those points should be mentioned, which are the core points. And this is exactly what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did. Out of his nobility, Allah informed him, and he only mentioned the necessary points. So that Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha was fully aware that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam does know, and she made a mistake. This is called taghaful. Taghaful means to pretend and to overlook the matter and to concentrate on the bigger picture and not go after those small, petty, insignificant points. Sufyan Thawri rahimahullah ta'ala mentions that if a person wants to succeed in his marriage, he needs to adopt this quality of taghaful, which means to pretend and overlook all of these small points and only address the main and big points. So nonetheless, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam confronted Hafsah radiallahu ta'ala anha and just mentioned some parts of the matter. Thereafter, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the glorious Quran, عَسَى رَبُّهُ إِن طَلَّقَكُنَّ أَن يُبْدَلَهُ أَزْوَاجًا خَيْرًا مِنْكُنْ. That if, or you Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you give a divorce to your wives, then your Lord shall grant you much better wives than the wives that you have right now. So your current wives, Hafsa and Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, they should not assume that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam will not get better wives than us. So they are being admonished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that to cause inconvenience, to cause grief to our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam through words, through actions, this is impermissible in the Sharia. So they are being admonished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that if you wish to divorce them, let them know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant you much better wives who are Muslimat, who are Muslims. Mu'minat, they are Mu'minat. Qanitat, they are obedient. Ta'ibat, they are repentant. Abidat, they are worshippers. Sa'ihat, women who fast. Thayyibatin wa abkara, women who are previously married or virgins. Nonetheless, both Hafsa radiallahu ta'ala anha and Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha were fully aware of the severity of the situation. And according to the authentic narration, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam intended to give a divorce to Hafsa radiallahu ta'ala anha. There's two narrations. So according to one narration, he did issue one divorce, but according to the preferred and more authentic narration, he only intended to give a divorce to Hafsa radiallahu ta'ala anha due to this secret being disclosed and this secret then causing inconvenience and grief and pain to Zainab bint Jahsh radiallahu ta'ala anha. However, Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam was sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam instructed the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam to take Hafsa back. So if a divorce did occur, then he remarried her, and according to the authentic and preferred narration, this intention that he had, he then waived this intention and kept Hafsa radiallahu ta'ala in his marriage. Thereafter, Jibril alayhi salatu wasalam said, "Innaha sawwamatun qa'imatun." That Hafsah radiyallahu ta'ala anha is a very pious lady. She fasts during the day and she excessively prays and worships Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And she is among those wives who have been destined to be your wife in Jannah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's desire is that you keep her. So the Prophet ﷺ kept her. But nonetheless, the admonishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in clear words, mentioned in Surah Al-Tahrim in the 28th juz of the Quran. So again, let us recap. In order for a successful marriage, both husband and wife need to carry out their respective responsibilities and rights. And one key point upon which marriage is based is trust. If there's any doubts, if there's any ambiguity, if there's any uncertainty in a person's integrity, credibility, this will destroy the marriage. Trust is of utmost importance. So the husband needs to have a clean and pure track record. He should be consistent with his words, consistent with his actions, and even more so the wife. It shouldn't be that the wife, through her words, through her actions, is causing discrepancies, is a means of causing inconsistencies. And then this leads to distrust. So trust is extremely important for a successful marriage. And once trust is there, then a person can overlook a person's mistakes because he realizes and he knows that this person is a trustworthy person. The mistake that he made or she made is a minor mistake. So not every single mistake should be looked at with face value. Rather, these core qualities, core characteristics, trust, a person's characteristics, a person's morale, a person's nature, a person's temperament. If these qualities are there, then inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant a person a successful marriage. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to understand and practice. Wa akhiru da'wana an alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Sadaqallahu al-azim.